Welcome back, Troglodytes, to your daily dose of guitar information, the Trogly's Guitar Show. It's time to recap the Gibson demo shop this week. I'll be honest, there was not a lot of golden gooses this time, but there are a few cool pieces that we can take a look at. But first, let's take a look at the scragglers. These are the poor unsung models that nobody's bought in a couple of weeks. So at the very end of the list, we got a couple of 335s and SG faded. Looks like a historic Les Paul Jr. I have no idea how this thing has not sold. I swear, I've talked about it 3 times. That is such beautiful wood grain and nobody wants it for $100 off. I don't understand that. 126 watchers. Am I gonna have to buy it? And title the review, Nobody Wanted to Buy This Guitar. And I don't know why. Or now I know why. Oh man, that's tempting to do. And I hate to say I told you so, but that ESLP special, yep, that's sitting just like I thought. But I'm kind of surprised to see that this thing's still here, the Bangle Burst Les Paul Access. The 175 really isn't that bad of a deal, but it's sitting as well. But that's enough talking about those. Let's go into this week's recap. There was one prototype that I missed talking about last week that I wanted to go over too. This is called an ES390. It's labeled a prototype. It's $4,499, which, you know, for a prototype, it seems about right. A little bit high. And I think the reason that this hasn't sold is it's a model that I don't think most people have heard of. When I first saw this, I was like, is that a model that actually doesn't even exist yet? So I looked through it. It's got kind of interesting tuners going on here. It's definitely from the Gibson Memphis plant back when they were doing the etched-in F-hole on the truss rod cover. I love the look of that. You get the mother of pearl Gibson and crown. Kind of strange tuners on this one. Those are the locking Clusons, I believe. I'm not a big fan of the way they look. Tuning tips back. I get what they're going for, but it's just not very traditional. But here we can see that prototype stamp, but no traditional serial number, it doesn't look like. Either that or it's hiding. But this had a couple of scratches, a couple of dings. But take a look at that. They actually have the P94 pickups in it. So it's a humbucker-sized P90. And then we have a trapeze tailpiece, similar to other arch tops, like certain ES175s. But it's a shrunken down 335, so kind of like a 339. I'm not sure if it's got a block in it or not. Let's see if they tell us. I'm not seeing it here, so I had to do a little bit of research on the Gibson ES390 because I've never heard anybody talk about that. And then I found something similar to this. There was a dog ear P90 version with the chrome covers, you know, kind of looking like an Epiphone Casino here. And thankfully in this, I did find a description that tells us it is a full hollow body construction. So I believe that means there's no center block in this thing at all, so you'll get some feedback. But that is a pretty interesting looking guitar. I think a pickguard on it would make it look a little bit better, but this actually isn't the first one I saw. It was this one. Excuse me, mini humbuckers? I certainly was not expecting to find mini humbuckers on an ES-styled instrument. That just really piqued my curiosity, and the fact that this bar is so long, it makes it just look like a short-scaled guitar. Maybe it's just because of the weird angle here, though. Here's a better look at it. Looks like they came in the ebony finish. They had a sunburst. I think between those two, I prefer the ebony. Then the cherry red came in the P90 dog-eared. And then you had kind of like a really beautiful looking one right here, a very dark vintage sunburst. The only thing that would have made this better is if they would have used the old pre-war Gibson logo, you know, the ones like you find on the Les Paul Artisan, because there are certain models that they did limited editions of that before. Kind of like what we talked about when I did the review of the ES275 prototype. So it seems most of these sell within that like $2,000 to $3,000 range. So it would be really cool to document this one because this is like the best of both worlds. I guess it's a prototype because it was a humbucker sized route. They still did the P90s. They gave it the pickguard. If anything, I would say this version looks better. And it also gives you the opportunity to swap out the P94s for a regular humbucker style pickup if you wish. But that's kind of a cool guitar. However, if I was going to review and document one of these, this is one of those times where I would honestly just prefer either the P90 or the mini humbucker version. Maybe I'll have to pick one of these up. I truly believe the reason this one hasn't sold in a couple of weeks is because No, the 390, it's just not a popular model. Not many collectors want to add it to their collection if other people don't know about it and want it. But that has sat for about 9 days now. But let's go ahead and jump into this week's offerings. As I was saying earlier, there were a couple of cool guitars. I actually ended up buying 2 of them this week. I've been on top of things. But let's start with this 57. So they want $5,600. It's a 57 reissue. Now, a lot of people don't realize the original customs had mahogany tops. So that's what makes a 57 reissue different from, say, a 68 or just a regular Les Paul custom. You'll have the mahogany top to them. These things look really cool when they put them in a natural finish, despite not being accurate. But hey, this one actually has the really cool Kluson waffle back tuners, and it appears to be made in 2021, so let's see, what is wrong with it? Maybe a couple of scratches. I'm sure you could easily replace that poker chip if that truly bothered you. A couple of light impressions there. I mean, you got the VOS finish anyway, so you kind of got some haziness and scratching, so I wouldn't worry about that. And as far as the mods, I think all they changed were the knobs. I'm not a big fan of those knobs. Normally, something like this costs $6,699 brand new. There are a few in stock on their website even. So hey, over $1,000 off, and you get the triple pickup version. Did they add that? It looks like they just changed the wiring, so it's got 3 individual volume controls for each pickup. That's a very common modification on those. I personally prefer the other way. Sure, it's less versatile, but I just like simplicity. But they're not saying they added that middle pickup. The only other similar offering I can see is right here is the version that has the Bigsby, and they're charging, all the way up to $8,500. So honestly, if you are in the market for a brand new current year model, that's pretty fair. 116 watchers? I'm surprised it's lasted that long. But as far as the most interesting ones here, we got a couple of strange pickup covers. Yeah, I'm not quite sure. At least they matched the toggle switch cover with that. I like that they have those around. They kind of use that on the Les Paul piece. Looks like we've got white knobs on here. Oh, wow. I didn't even realize it was a Les Paul custom. I can't say I agree with these modifications on, a current year custom like this one, but I'm sure somebody might like it. At $38.99, I think that's about $700 off or something. But this classic you can save $300 on. They give it a very similar treatment with the pink rings. Switched it over to the metal knurled knobs. I'm not seeing anything else too crazy on this modern day classic. Another one of those beautiful ES275s, but take a look at this thing. Okay, so this was a limited edition guitar called the Rock Top. And I think this is the first guitar where all this multicoloredness nonsense makes sense. So the reason they called it a rock top is they used a hard rock maple top on very lightweight bodies to give you a different sound. And they gave it kind of this unique finish. Like here's a really beautiful standard, I believe built to historic specs. So it's kind of like an R9 reissue, but with a fancy finish. It's got a little bit of a grayish brown, moves into a turquoise, into a dark blue. That's actually really nice looking. They also had other finishes like malachite, fossilized flame, that's a really cool title, and trans granite. I'd say the trans geode is probably the coolest. So it's supposed to be like, geodes, you crack them open, you see all the different colors. That's what they're going for here. Not a lot of people talk about this series, and honestly, it was one I had completely forgotten about as well until this thing showed up. So essentially, they tried to match the colors that they had going on here with our pickup rings. And in my opinion, I think it works because that blends in well. The blue, it's a bit darker on the ring, but yeah, okay. And then they went completely crazy down here, giving it a whole bunch of multicolors. Okay, maybe they could have just stuck with the matching color, but it stands out. I appreciate it. It looks cool. It's certainly not a finish for everybody, but if you're looking for something that's a little bit different, you might want to add it to your collection and your playing arsenal. So I believe that serial number makes it a 2019, if I'm not mistaken. Just a few blemishes on that. And at $4,500. That's either something you're gonna love or hate. Had a couple of specials, but I'm surprised this thing has lasted as long as it has. So this is a 335 figured, which normally costs $3,699 if you order it brand new. So you get a couple $100 off, and you get the awesome natural finish. That's a nice top. It almost looks like it's one piece, but I think I can see a seam line down there. But pairing that with the double cream pickups, oh yes. Especially with that cream pickguard, everything looks delicious on this one. If you're in the market for a newer 335, I don't see anything wrong with this one. It kind of reminds me of the rusty 335s. But just appears to have a few small blemishes. It had kind of an interesting modification with the plastics on this custom shop double cutaway. But, you know, for the most part, a lot of this stuff just kind of sat around this week. There weren't any huge killer deals. But before we get to the ones that did sell almost instantly, let's take a look at this one. It was just listed today, about 6 hours ago. So this is a 339, so a shrunken down 335 like we were talking about earlier, but this one has the center block. But they put one of those finger tail pieces on it. They kind of look cool. It might be a bit too big for this body though. But mix that with the black finish, with the uncovered pickups, that's looking all right. That's looking all right. The gold hardware, it really pops it. It's not my favorite because I'm just not a big fan of the 339. I'm a taller guy, so I don't benefit from the smaller size. If I'm going to play one of these, I go for the full size. But that doesn't mean there weren't cool limited editions like the Joan Jett signature one that I reviewed and documented right here. But now, ladies and gentlemen, for the crown jewels of this week, we start with this, the Gibson Les Paul Special Proprietary TV Yellow Demo. You're probably wondering, okay, what's so proprietary about it? Usually that refers to a Japan exclusive run. This was a fantastic deal. I was tempted to pick it up myself because this would have been made likely before the original collection ones came out, so having something like a Gibson Mother of Pearl logo was a big deal. I mean, this one even goes as far as having the button tuners on it as well. And the TV yellow finish on this one is more akin to what I associate TV yellow with as compared to what they do on the original collections. It's a little bit darker, it's not quite as bright. So I actually had somebody commission a private help session a couple of days ago. They had bought the Epiphone version of this guitar and they were ready to upgrade to something new. So they were asking me, hey, what models would you suggest? So I told him a whole bunch of stuff, but when I saw this thing, I instantly emailed him. I told him, if he wants a special, this is a fantastic deal. And thankfully, he just happened to be there, within 5 minutes of me sending that. And he said he may jump on it. So I'm hopeful that was him because that was a great deal. It was exactly what he was looking for, well under his budget, and it's likely going to be a great guitar. Next up, we had a Les Paul CM at $899. I'm 2 for 2 on the CMs a couple of weeks. I was able to pick this thing up. I was happy. I was right there as it refreshed. It's like, yes. I did the CM black of the SG, but I think we might need to check this one out too. I kind of like the top-mounted Floyd Rose systems on these, so I did end up securing that, and at $899, absolute steal. That's well worth double that. They just price them like that because they have the other CMs, and they forgot to consider it's a Les Paul CM black. Those things are on a completely different level because they're a lot more rare and desirable than a regular CM. But continuing on with our 339s, now that I think about this a bit more, this was a great deal. I had the opportunity to pick this up if I wanted to, but I decided I'll just use it as a talking topic. I love this finish. It's all dark, but you can see this has like a little bit of a reddish purplish tinge to it. It's so dark, and what they called it was the Red Eye Burst. So it kind of reminds me of Yu-Gi-Oh! Got Red Eye's Black Dragon, that's what I would have called this one. Put a little decal of them up here or on your truss rod cover and you're good to go. Like if this thing would have had like block inlays or something cool, I think I would have had to have gotten this because that is a cool finish. Fantastic job to the person who thought of this one. I think Gibson needs to bring the Red Eye's Black Dragon Burst into production. It looks great. And on top of that, the double black pickups with the gold pole pieces really worked well on that. In retrospect, yeah, that was a really good deal. And there were a couple of standards and studios. You can check them out here as I slowly go past them. But onto some more exclusive paints. So just like the one we talked about earlier, they did another one of these 60s tributes in a special color. Now this one, not quite as cool as the last one. Still sold within about 30 minutes or so. Just a custom finish on the front this time. It looks like they left the back alone. I'm not necessarily that excited by it, and at $17.99, they're even pushing the price point a little bit harder on that one. I wasn't interested. Oh, but now, the Big Daddy. This was the crown jewel of this entire week. Take a look at this. It was titled Gibson Les Paul Custom Gold Sparkle Top. Now, before you even see it, because I've got it blurred out here on the page, what are you expecting? You know, something like this, a gold sparkle top Les Paul, like from this 2000s run, or what I did a rocker knot on? No, let's reveal. It's Silver Burst. Okay, it's a sparkle Silver Burst that they took the pickup covers off on, and they replaced the chrome hardware with gold hardware. You do not see gold hardware on a Les Paul Custom Silver Burst almost ever. I mean, there's been a few small runs, but typically you don't think gold with silver on these. But then when you get to the back, it's black, which at first I was sad, but you gotta think, sparkles are great in a small quantity. It's like, you know, check out these reviews for the Sparkle Top Deluxes. What makes those things so beautiful as compared to like the 2000s era sparkle standards and customs where they go all out everywhere is, in my opinion anyways, sparkles are best done in moderation. It likely would have became distasteful if they also would have bursted the back, the sides, the neck, and the headstock. I mean, it's great if you like sparkles, but you could also say that this harkens back to the original prototype Silver Bursts done up in 1977. They had black backs. So I happened to catch this release of guitars on Thursday as they were coming in. Like, I was refreshing the page, and every time there'd be a couple more. And so I did some thinking. I looked at the price, $5,599. I personally think something like this top value is probably about $65. So this was priced fairly, but not over the top. And I started thinking about this title, Gold Sparkle Top. Remember last week how they had that Les Paul Studio, and once the guy got it, they found out it was actually a flip-flop finish. Typically, these custom paint jobs, these stock photos do absolutely no justice to them. So I did this for you guys. I took the plunge. I was the lucky one that got to buy it. You can see my order number right there. I am hoping this thing looks explosive in person, because I'm guessing as you move it, this is all just going to turn gold. Like, you can just kind of see it right there. So it's like a Silver Burst that you can age just at the tilt of the guitar. So I bought it. We will see a full review and documentation of it. Just, you know, I thought it'd be fun. It's fun to check out the demo shop. I'm not sponsored to talk about it. It's just, I like Gibson guitars and I like freaky modifications. So it's fantastic when Gibson will do the freaky modifications themselves. But I'm guessing this likely started life as a black Les Paul Custom. And it's got a couple of dings on it, unfortunately. I'm not sure what happened to the neck. I'm hoping that's not a huge impression, but hey, I bought it. And I'm sure somebody will be all right buying it from me too, but I'm happy I will get to document that one. It wasn't quite that green one I was hoping this week, but I guess that means next week we will see this thing get listed. But to be honest, unless there's something really cool on the back, I don't think that one's quite unique enough for me to want to buy and document. I mean, again, there's been Sparkle Silver Bursts before, but I'm really banking on this being something a little bit even more special after that. Okay, I think that is going to do it for our wrap-up of the Gibson demo shop this week. Overall, a few cool limited edition finishes, particularly the Red Eye Burst and obviously the ones that I bought. But thank you, Troglodytes, for tuning in. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will catch you tomorrow on the next episode. Take care.